much for having me. It is true, I was not aware that I was doing this, but it means that I get another chance to speak to you and hold a microphone, so that's cool. But I reckon I'll just tell you a little bit about what I do, and if you have any questions, please just throw them out. So we'll just have an open chat rather than a talk and a Q&A. So to start off, I'd really like to get a feel for who's listening, so that I know what's relevant to you and what's not. So, do we have any artists in the room? Okay, quite a few of you, that's cool. And I'm assuming that you already tour. Out of those artists, do you already tour? Okay, oh, ish, all right, you tour-ish. So, I moved from Berlin to London in order to start a music career, and had no idea what I was doing. So I just started playing open mics and said yes to literally every show that was offered to me, just to gain the experience. Now, looking back, I think that being removed from my comfort zone was a really great thing. I had a lack of geographical knowledge of the UK, so when I was offered a show in Liverpool, opening the show for Chicken Shack, if anyone knows or remembers them, I said, yeah, sure, I can do that. I had a part-time reception job at the time, which meant that I had to be back in London at 8 a.m. in the morning. So I took the tour bus, also known as the mega bus, up to Liverpool, played the show, had a great time, took the last night mega bus that leaves Liverpool at 11 p.m. and got to London about 6 p.m. and rocked up at reception. Needless to say, I did not keep any of these part-time jobs for very long, but that wasn't the goal, so that was fine. So yes, played as many shows as possible until you realize, like, okay, if I have a bunch of shows, string them together, I can tie a bow around them and call it a tour. And that allows me to promote it. So from my DIY artist point of view, the only thing that really changed was that I was trying to package it up a bit more so that I had something to promote. So if you've got a tour coming up, and you've got a new song, you've got a music video to go with the tour, blogs will write about it, it will get people's attention rather than I'm playing a couple of random shows. I decided to do music full-time and give up on these part-time jobs in 2013 when I released my first record, because I thought I've got a product to sell now at the shows, and now's the time, I'm just going to go for it. And touring in mainland Europe really was a huge part of that decision, because I do find that it's a great time to make music. It's a great time to make music if you're happy to do the work yourself. The way I make a living out of music, I honestly don't think it would have been possible 10 or 20 years ago. With the decentralization of the music industry, the rise of social media, there's so many tools out there for artists to book your own tours, and manage your own releases and be in touch directly with the people that enjoy and support your music. So touring in Germany, Switzerland, Italy, Netherlands is lucrative on a DIY level. So a lot of the shows I do are still like hat shows, so that hat goes round, and you guys probably saw that Amanda Palmer talk, I think a couple of years ago now, right? It is quite a predictable income. If there are 20 people in the room, which is the minimum, I guess, you can count on 100 euros plus. So it's, sometimes things go wrong, obviously, and sometimes things are better than expected. But all in all, you know how much you'll make out of a week of touring in Germany, even if you don't have a single fixed fee show in that tour. At this point, does anyone have any questions? That's literally just what's in the hat. So that's another really good point. I'm just asking if that included merch, in case people didn't hear that in the back. So physical product is still super important for me. The panel yesterday, someone rightly said, well, you're talking about very traditional ways of making money, but that just hasn't gone away, and I don't think it will. So physical product, be it CDs, vinyl, which I don't yet have, but really want to, that really is an additional boost to the income. Especially, I have a booking agent now for the UK, which is amazing. Like the first time you get an email saying you have this show, and I had nothing to do with getting it, it was like, amazing. So even if there are small fees for opening the shows for other people, if you sell between 10 and 20 albums, that's 3 times as much as you're getting for the actual show, and that's a really nice, especially if you're going back and forth with the megabus, that's a really nice profit. So I do understand that it's way easier if you're a singer-songwriter. It's like backpacking, traveling. It's me with a suitcase and a guitar. If you're a 5-piece band with a van, that is obviously, it's far more difficult to tour lucratively if you don't have a large following already. I am coming to the pushing the limits of that. On the last tour in Germany, there were 3 shows where I was walking around with an electric guitar, an acoustic guitar on my back, and a suitcase, and a ukulele in the suitcase. And that is pushing it. So I will have to step up my game in terms of that soon. And other tips to the songwriters that are looking to tour more. I always find it funny when people ask, so how do you book a tour? Because for me it's really obvious, but I guess everything's just difficult, tricky, until you do it once, and then it's not scary and not so tricky anymore. So you steal gigs. You look at artists who are similar to you, who you admire and who are already touring, and you go on their website, and you totally steal their shows. So if you want to, sometimes it's even good to write to the artist and say, exchange ideas and details. Hey, how was that show in Milan that you played? Would you recommend it? More often than not, artists are always happy to share. And in fact, when they don't, I find that dodgy. So I can encourage artists to share as much info and contacts as possible, because it's really, because someone else getting that show does not mean you won't be rebooked. So it's really, there's no reason to not share those details. And it's, we'll all be better off if we filter off the shitty promoters and the shitty gigs if we share that info. Like, actually, there was nobody there, the accommodation was terrible, and it was all a bit weird. So if you share that info, then we're all better off. So yeah, get inspired by your fellow artists, see where they're playing, write to the venues. It is time consuming. You send out a whole load of emails, and the yes please, we love your music, this date suits us well. Obviously that's a small fraction of all the stuff you send out, but it works and it's worth it, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. You get return bookings in the places that you've already played, people ask you to come back, other promoters get in touch with you. So it really is just like a learning by doing, and it gets better and easier as you go along.
So have you really seen like kind of organic growth just as you played and toured more and more, and now you said that you're with a booking agent now in England, and I'm wondering if there are things outside of touring that you're doing as well to promote yourself, or if it's just a matter of, the more you do it, like you said, the more other things come from it.
Absolutely, great question. Over the last couple of years, I play an average of like 90 shows per year, and that's because that's my main income, and I have to pay rent. And if I could play less shows, then I would, only because it's tricky to balance time, right? You also need to write songs. You have to remind yourself, like, oh yeah, that's actually what I'm supposed to be doing, and everything else that goes around with it. In terms of organic growth, I don't know how musicians did this before the internet, because, you play a show to people you don't know, you collect their email addresses, the mailing list is still super important. I know it's tedious, but it's got to be done. People connect to you on social media after the show, and you keep in touch with them, and that really is the whole key. So thank you for steering me in that direction, because it's direct artist to fan. You can stay in touch with them, you form genuine relationships, you form friendships, and they come back the next time and they bring a few friends. It is organic and it is slow if it's just you without a big team behind you, but it does work. And sometimes it doesn't, and you eliminate that place. Like, I played one venue in the north of Germany that I really quite liked, but I felt it wasn't quite working there and it wasn't growing. And the third time I played there, it just felt a bit stale, and I thought, okay, I don't really want to, I'll leave this one out on the next tour. So, and you pursue the ones that do grow and where you feel like, yeah, this is happening. So, yeah. Oh, that was the 5. That wasn't a question. All right, are there any other questions?
There's been a bit of a sort of thing, it's all around the energy of writers, and there's been a bit of a thing going on in the UK with people playing shows in non-conventional venues.
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys
absolutely. I love playing living room shows. I went on a whole living room tour. The summer I released my first record, and more often than not, the non-traditional gigs are more lucrative. A, they're more lucrative, and B, it's always just such a lovely experience, because in a living room show, firstly, you get to play to people who are definitely there to see you. Like, they're not going to be hanging out in the kitchen or at the bar. You know? They're there to see you. They're open for this lovely experience, and because it's so intimate, so again, I don't think it suits every artist, but because it's so intimate, it's a really special experience. And you stay in touch with them. Again, especially through living room shows, I formed actual friendships, and not just, oh yeah, there's a person that's going to buy my CD. In fact, tonight I played at the best living room show in Amsterdam ever last year, and I needed a place to stay tonight, so I'm staying with them, and they're throwing a party, and that's going to be fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing them again. So yeah, you build like a little tour family, I'd say. In terms of like stats, I think the one thing that really is challenging as a DIY artist, I don't have the luxury of the labels of having a team to analyze all the data. I was just looking at the Spotify slides, and I thought that would be so cool if I would know all of that and I'd have all of that. There's only so much one person can do in 24 hours, and that's where I do fall short. So, of course, I think every DIY artist looks to build a team in order to, progress. So, yeah, making use of all those tools that are out there is a challenge just because of, the limited hours there are in the day. Any other questions?
What would be like your next goal or next step that you want to get to in your career?
That's a good question. I'm currently recording my second album. I've got my first UK headline tour coming up in April, and some people, when I announced that, they were like, what do you mean your first headline tour? Like, I've seen you headline before. But this is the first time, A, it was booked through the agent, and B, it's the first time there are ticket sales beforehand for all the shows, and it's kind of up to you to make sure, like, okay, I've got to sell tickets. So, April 11th, London, for those of you who are from London, and the Green Note, it'd be great to see you there. I think there are 24 tickets left. So my next step is definitely to keep building the team, to see what's out there, and to release the next record this year. And so firstly, short-term goal to have this first tour be a success and take it from there.